If your avoidant partner suddenly starts acting different, what looks like healing might actually be temporary behavior to keep you around, and I'm going to show you how to tell the difference. Look, I know you've been watching for signs. Every time they open up even a little, you're wondering if this is it. And here's the thing, avoidance can heal. But you need to know what real healing looks like, because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the one sign that separates genuine growth from surface-level changes. Before we get into the signs, let me say this. These aren't just signs to spot so you can wait around forever. These are standards. If you're seeing real healing, great. If you're not, that's information too. And later in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why some avoidants never change, no matter how patient you are. Sign number 1. They're uncomfortable, but they stay. Here's the first sign, and it's not pretty. When things get emotionally heavy, they're visibly uncomfortable. But here's the difference. They don't run. They stay in the room. They stay in the conversation. They might fidget, they might need a minute, but they're not disappearing for 3 days. When you share something vulnerable, or when conflict comes up, they'll say things like, "This is hard for me, but I'm trying," or "I need a minute, but I'm not leaving." They're acknowledging the discomfort instead of pretending it doesn't exist. But watch for this. If they stay but shut down emotionally, go completely silent, or act like a brick wall, that's not healing. That's just a new way to avoid. And here's the reality check. If after months of you being patient, they're still running every single time things get real, they're just keeping you on the hook. I'm going to talk more about timelines later, but first, there's something about emotional conversations that'll tell you everything. If this is already clicking for you, hit that like button so I know this is resonating. It helps me keep making content that actually matters. Sign number 2. They initiate emotional conversations. This one's huge. They don't just respond to emotional conversations, they actually start them. Not all the time, but sometimes. They might check in and ask how you're really doing. They might bring up something that's bothering them. They might even ask about the relationship. When they say, "Can we talk about us?" or "I've been thinking about what you said," that's significant. Because initiating emotional intimacy goes against every instinct they have. Their nervous system is telling them that closeness equals danger. So when they push through that, they're doing internal work. But here's the test. How do they handle your response? If you open up and they immediately regret asking, if they change the subject or deflect with humor, they're not ready. When someone's truly healing, they'll be able to hold space for your feelings even if it makes them squirm. They won't always get it perfect, but you'll see the effort. Sign number 3. They can name their own patterns. Someone who's healing develops self-awareness. They start noticing their own behavior. They might say, "I know I pull away when we get too close," or "I realize I've been avoiding this conversation." They're not just reacting anymore, they're observing themselves. This matters because avoidants are masters at deflection. Everything's fine, they don't have issues, you're the one who's too needy. But when they start saying, "I struggle with intimacy," or "I know I have avoidant patterns," they're taking the first step toward change. Here's what to look for. They name the pattern, then they try something different. They say, "I notice I want to pull away right now, but I'm going to stay and work through this." But if they name the pattern and do nothing about it, if it becomes an excuse like, "I'm avoidant, so that's just how I am," that's not healing. That's just giving their behavior a label so you'll accept it. Real change requires action, not just awareness. And speaking of action, there's a specific shift that happens around vulnerability that you need to watch for. Sign number 4. Vulnerability doesn't send them running. Here's where you'll really see the difference. In the beginning, if you cried or expressed a need, they probably distanced themselves. Maybe they got awkward. Maybe they left the room. Maybe they just checked out mentally. But when someone's healing, they start leaning in instead of pulling back. They don't freak out when you're upset. They don't treat your emotions like a problem they need to fix or escape. They can sit with you in discomfort. They might not have the perfect words, but they're there. They're trying. When you say, "I need more quality time," or "I felt hurt when you canceled," they'll hear that as information, not an attack. They might need to process it, but they won't punish you for having needs. They won't give you the silent treatment or withdraw affection. But watch for this. If they tolerate your vulnerability, but never show any of their own, something's off. Healing is a two-way street. If after 6 months they can handle your feelings, but still won't share theirs, they're managing you, not healing with you. Which brings me to the final and most important sign. Sign number 5. They actually do the work. Here's the truth. Everything I just described means nothing if they're not actively working on themselves. Real healing requires real work. Therapy, reading, podcasts, journaling, something. You can't heal attachment wounds by accident. Someone who's healing takes responsibility for their growth. They're not waiting for you to drag them to therapy. They're going on their own. They're learning about attachment. They're doing the uncomfortable work of figuring out why they are the way they are. Because here's what I need to tell you. Most people won't change. Not because they can't, but because the discomfort of growth feels worse than the discomfort of staying the same. This is where you need to be honest. Has your partner done any actual work on their patterns? Not just acknowledged them, but worked on them? Because you can be patient. You can be understanding, but you can't do their healing for them. When someone's truly healing, you'll see concrete changes over months, not overnight, but over time you'll notice they're more present, more emotionally available, more willing to be vulnerable. But if it's been a year and nothing's changed, except they now have vocabulary for it, that's your answer. Attachment healing takes time. But it shouldn't take forever. If you've been patient for a year, 2 years, and you're seeing 0 progress, 0 effort, 0 change, you're allowed to have a timeline. You're allowed to decide that waiting isn't worth it. Because here's the thing. All 5 of these signs need to show up together. 1 or 2 don't count. If they can name their patterns but never stay during conflict, that's not healing. If they initiate conversations but can't handle your vulnerability, that's not healing. Real transformation touches every part of how they show up. So here's my question. What's one moment where you saw your partner actually choose connection over comfort? What did they do that made you think they're really trying? Drop it in the comments, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.